Hi and welcome. Now today I've got something a little bit different to my usual program, coming from a conversation that I had with a woman today who contacted me regarding a few health issues that she's having. And I had something quite different, but I thought out of this conversation I wanted to really bring up the subject of healing. And why is it that some people feel they've reached a plateau? Maybe you feel you've done everything you can, and maybe there is no real diagnosis, and you might be making some progress from the things that you've done, but you're not quite there, and you're wondering why is it that you're still having issues with your health. So I wanted to talk about like the natural science of healing, because there's so much more than just diet and exercise or medications. There are other, and actually medications do not heal, they do treat the symptoms. And I made some notes because one, there was a lot of things that I thought about that I want to make sure that I cover as well. And I want to talk about only, just a few things in terms of only a few of us really spend time thinking about or finding the root cause of the problem. And we don't find that at the bottom of a pill jar, and we're seeking it, but in some cases, and trying things, but we're not getting the results that we want. If nature had a voice, it would say to us that basically the nature is the source of our healing, and we're one with nature. And if you rest your mind and you start reconnecting with nature, it's like really resetting your brain, and it's almost like rediscovering you, and also finding that calm in nature. And your journey to healing lies inside you, and that's where it really begins. And that was the question I got from a woman who has come so far, and she said, well, where do I begin? Where do I go now? So when we're looking at nature, and when I'm talking about nature, I'm talking about, going out into nature, walking among trees. We might live in cities and we might not be in rural areas, but finding that place where you can be in contact with nature, because it helps to boost our immunity, and it's also it's healing for us in terms of accelerating recovery, even from things like surgery and illness. It increases our blood cells that fight cancer and tumours as well. It improves our sleep. It reduces blood pressure. And also, our brains deal with logic most of the time and decision making. We're full of a world of distractions. And our thoughts and our minds can sometimes get a bit out of control, and that can lead on to more chronic problems, whether that's physical or mental. Some of us might be dealing with anxiety, even depression, whether that's chronic or whether that's day-to-day struggles, dealing with things that have been going up and down in our lives. And some of us might cope with that through drugs or alcohol, and sometimes medicines and even therapies. So let's ask ourselves the question, what does your world look like to you? And we all look at the world through a different lens. I often think about a song, a very famous song by Louis Armstrong, What a Wonderful World. And when I think about that song, it brings me back, it grounds me, and it helps me to understand. And going from that place, when I'm sitting behind my desk and I'm stressed and I've got things to arrange and I'm on 101 phone calls and I haven't even seen the light of day, I remember that song and it grounds me and it brings me back. And even if it's sometimes like just looking up at the window and looking at the sun and getting the rays on my face, it reminds me that nature's there for us and that we can glean some healing from that. We can start from that point and move forward. And some of us want to hide from the world. We've evolved to more logical thinking, living in a digital age where we're communicating digitally, we're staring at a phone screen even at night, which keeps us up, and replaying digital things all the time. We're so disconnected from our creative imagination. Let me give you an example. If you put a child in a playground, right? That child runs off and it's like, yay, life is wonderful, they're having a good time and they're playing with their peers. But if you put a child in a natural environment, a woodland environment, or even just somewhere where people take their dogs to roam, there's lots of trees and grass and places to explore, a child will use its imagination and start building things. They'll even start imagining things all around them. And that's what we've lost in our way of thinking and creativity, because we're so busy, we don't even have time to think. Life is at such a fast pace, we don't have time to even have a mental health day from work. And we're disconnected from our creative imagination. And wellness isn't all about, it's not just about a lack of disease and it's about a state of mind. So we look at, I always often ask people when I'm working on a one-to-one with them, I look at how they're functioning well, and I ask them, how are you functioning well? What's going on in your life? What's impacting on what you've done this week and how you felt? And do you have time to think and even make decisions from having, a place of clarity? And it's so rare that people do, because they're either too busy, stressed out, or burnt out, and they've got all these commitments and they're working, or they're doing the school runs, or there's problems going on at home, and whatever's going on around them is become so noisy, it's become a distraction. You can't even see the woods for the trees, pardon the pun. But that's how life has become. And I think it's the only time maybe somebody gets that feeling of peace and they're feeling better in themselves is if they even have the fortune to go away on a holiday and be able to reconnect with themselves and rest, and then it starts all over again. They're propelled in this busy, stressful world, and you lose foresight of to see that there's a rapid disconnection going on. And that's what I'm really concerned about when I'm working with people. And the question this lady asked me today was, where do I start? We have I spoke to her, we spoke at length, and I told her that we have a natural connection to the earth. It's in our DNA. And if you take your shoes off and you walk on the earth and you connect, it's scientifically proven that we actually have electrodes that go through our body and connect with the free radicals and bring us healing. You do feel much better in yourself, and when you practice this more, you find that your body responds more. So if there's nothing else you feel you can do, just by making that connection is a place to start. And I believe that somebody's online at the moment And somebody, Azeb, says, is there any advice you can give me about Parkinson's for my dad? Thank you. Well, on this subject, Azeb, I would say for your father, and it was the same for my mother as well. Just having that connection with people, first of all, reminding them of who you are and being around them. And if it's not possible for them to get out, my mother's housebound, so we do take time to take her out, and now she's going to a day centre. And I can tell you this, from just getting her out of that bedbound environment, or even those times where we were able to draw the curtains and get her to sit in her chair and she could look out and just watch the world going by, it made a significant change, and it got better and better when we were able to get out more, because we had lockdown, and it felt like she had been in lockdown forever because she'd been bedbound, so it was 10 times worse. But having that connection with people and being able to get the sun in your face, whether it's even looking out of a window, opening a window, hearing voices, hearing birdsong, or if you're able to, like I have done, take my mother now once a week to a day centre where she's sitting in an environment with people around her, with things going on, and sometimes she might not even be connecting because she's been so disconnected from it all. It was the probably third visit where she was actually speaking to her peers in the day centre and interacting and asking for things, whereas before she just felt like she was, she felt like she was withering away and she wasn't very responsive, and she had become a little bit ill for a short time before she bounced back. And that's what makes a real difference over everything else, over therapy, over medication, whatever vices people use to, have that temporary boost. Just connection to people, to nature, to earth, having the sun on your face as well. And also, I would go into that, but not today, making sure that they've got the adequate amount of minerals, and the standard I always talk about is D3 with magnesium, which helps to absorb the D3, and that is the natural hormone from the sun. It's a sunshine vitamin, and zinc, which is a fighter for the immune system. Just those three things, and making sure that you find out whether there are any deficiencies going on. And of course, your father would probably have routine blood tests, but you can always ask. And of course, diet, but that's another subject which I bring up mainly every day, but I'm going to be more focused on in the future in terms of talking to people as I am now. But like I was saying, we have a natural connection to earth. It's in our DNA. And I was telling this lady that when you ground, like I said, scientifically, we connect, electrodes come through our bodies and connect with the free radicals, and free radicals fight disease. And that's where the healing process begins to start. But if you simply look outside, it's just as good as actually experiencing that healing process going on. Now, this lady I spoke to, she has pre-diabetes. She also has had eczema since a child, but she did go over it for a number of years, but it's come back chronically again. And she has too much cholesterol. Now, she took matters into her own hands, and she said to the doctors, look, I want some time to try and help myself. And she lost a significant amount of weight. And one of the struggles was her mother, who's a fantastic cook. She has this connection to food and her mother's food, and being around her mother and eating. And it was a way of them bonding. And that's what food's like. It brings people together. But instinctively, she brought herself into nature. Like, she started going in her garden, started pottering around. She told herself, well, you know, I don't feel energized, and she has a busy job. And the weekend, she just wanted to relax, feeling so fatigued. But she said in her mind, I'm going to give myself 10 minutes. And, you know, those 10 minutes obviously developed into longer than 10 minutes. And she felt energized and invigorated. And that was just getting her hands in the earth and connecting and grounding. And whether you know it or not, that can actually send signals to your body that can really help you to feel more energized and more upbeat about your life and circumstances, and start to make you feel well. And she went on to losing so much weight. She even did a running challenge. So she's actually made some great significant changes. She's got her blood test in 6 weeks, and then we'll find out what her cholesterol levels are. But the point is, you know, she's got to a point where she feels, well, I'm doing all these things, and I've managed to find what works for me in terms of the weight loss. But what next? What do I do about this chronic condition that I've got with my eczema, which is making her life a misery? So the other step is to really, because she's obviously serious about making change, and we spoke at length, and I told her about the work that I do, and she said to me, well, you know, Carol, I don't think I want to work with you. And I took that as a negative and thought, okay, she's not ready for that. Perhaps there's things she just wants to glean from me to see where she can go and do. She said, I know I want to work with you. And that's the mental change and switch to understanding that there is more that she needs to do, and she's going to need that help, support, accountability and guidance. And what I do is quite unique in terms of the amount, because she asked me, what amount of time would you spend working with me? And it depends on the case that I'm dealing with. And at the moment, I'm doing a weekly call with certain people who need that guided support and accountability, and having set up a strategy plan and not just letting them get on with it and going on an automated system. It's about actually talking through the issues week by week, looking at whether the strategy plan is going to work for them. They haven't got to just ask me a question in my inbox and then I just email them back. We're actually going to talk things through. We're going to tweak things. We're going to work with life's ups and downs, and what we work with you in where you are now to get from here to there, you know, and taking those baby steps. So having done that, there's a man in New York I've been working with, very busy, fatigued, family man, working all the hours God sends, an estate agent. He's been plant-based for 5 years, but he's had these issues with his skin for so long. And he's also got a level of joint pain. He's been seeing a chiropractor for so long. So people might say, well, seems like he's got a healthy diet and might be doing all the right things, but it's life that gets in the way. We're not living in an ideal environment, and we have to find certain self-care routines. And that's what I was saying to this woman. It's also finding the self-care routines to suit you where you are, and we start there. Let's go back, because we're going to go to the root cause, so there's more to discuss. And once we have a strategy in place, we look at how we're going to keep moving forward. So that's all I really wanted to bring to you today, and also just to encourage those people who are serious health seekers, who want to start, putting in change to get to where they need to be, to meeting their goals. You can't always do it alone. Sometimes you do need that, professional support, guidance, but the kind of support and guidance I give isn't a reliability. It's me giving you ownership to understanding where your triggers are, what you need to do to get over a hump, if you like, if you just don't know where else to go and what to do, and empowering you to be able to take control of your life in practical, simple, step-by-step ways. And that also includes, you know, my expertise as a nutritionist, and I work topically with people in terms of, you know, skin. I do have a skincare range out there, particularly for people with eczema and psoriasis, folliculitis. But the work starts with you, and only you can really implement that change to help yourself to heal. And if you're serious about making those changes and you just need that extra push and support and guidance and accountability, I'm now looking for 2 people, because that woman signed up today to work with me. So if you want more information about that, go to the link that I've put in the description and have a look at the information and get in touch, and we can have a conversation. Thank you very much for listening, and I'll be back again live to bring you more health tips and information to help you along your healthy living journey. Thank you so much for watching.